Good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon to everybody watching online as well. I'm Sue Daly. I'm Director of Technology and Innovation here at Tech UK. And for those of you that know me, I don't normally sound like this. Apologies. But I'm hoping that my voice will hold out for the start of this afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to and absolutely thrilled to be chairing and looking after this session. So this afternoon, we're really looking a little bit more over the horizon, but of course, at the Digital Ethics Summit, talking about how we stay the course as well. And we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the innovations and what the future may hold, with a panel coming up on how can breakthroughs in tech truly benefit humanities. Then we've got breakout sessions coming up, which are going to be fascinating on metaverse and also human rights. Then we're going to be back here at 3:10. I hope you're all writing this down. There will be a test on a panel on sentience, which is going to be amazing with Hitan Shah, Ivana Buttarelli, Professor Bessinger, and more. And I'm sure I've forgotten people, Adrian Weller from Turing and others. But first, it's my absolute thrill to be welcoming back a speaker that I think we've had at every Digital Ethics Summit. And I know I'm really looking forward to hearing what Professor Luciano Floridi has to say to us today. It's always been a real thrill to have him part of the summit and to get his guidance and his wisdom in terms of where we are today, but also where we're heading. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Luciano to the stage. He's going to be talking about ethics-based auditing of AI, what it is and why it matters. And just to keep you all on tenterhooks, this isn't the last you'll hear of Luciano today. He's going to be back at the end of the day to do a quick fireside chat with Anthony Walker, who you saw before, our Deputy CEO, and announce an exciting new project. So this is where I want a woo in the room. Well trained, thank you. So you want to stick around for that. So that's at the end of the day. But a lot to come before then. Luciano, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Please, can we welcome Luciano to the stage, please?
I wasn't quite ready for the woo. So I've been told that I have only 15 minutes, and I'll try to stick to the time. I've also had been warned that it was after lunch, so congratulations to everyone making it here after a very interesting and intense morning and a wonderful lunch. Shame on you. I mean, nothing else better to do. But this is the topic, and we heard a lot about ethics this morning, of course, what can or cannot do for us. I'll tell you a little bit more why I put the ethics-based auditing of AI as opposed to simply auditing of AI. I anticipate, will be towards the end of this short presentation, basically we don't have a legislation yet which is so firm that you can do auditing based on that legislation. It's coming, certainly it's coming in Europe, so this will be a slightly more sort of EU-oriented perspective, but it's coming everywhere, as we heard, here in the United States, etc. Now, this is based on some papers. You don't want to read these papers, but is to acknowledge that some of the smartest, early-stage researchers, kids in my group, Jess Morley and Jacob Mackander have contributed to what I've done here together with my colleague Rosaria Taddeo. This, I think, is something that we all share. And for the first 3 or 4 slides, I would simply put here something that we all know. It's not technology innovation that makes the difference, it's what you do with it. As simple as that. This has been true for a while. It seems that some people still not quite getting it. And so innovation is also innovation of the rules of the game. It's not just the innovation down the road, not what you innovate in terms of technology. So the governance of the digital is today the biggest, if you like, challenge, headache, or opportunity. Within that, I know you know, so this is going to be really quick. I'll slow down halfway through. We got plenty of problems, plenty of opportunities, and plenty of missed opportunities. I'd like to focus for a moment on the amber side, what AI could have done is not doing and why is underused. One of the reasons, apart from the green and the red, which we have heard a million times, I won't focus on that, but the amber is that we don't have a regulation, and when you don't have a regulation, the reasoning is quite simple. If I do it, no one will give me credit for it. If I make a mistake, it will be my fault. Therefore, I won't do it. As simple as that, everywhere, in industry, in public administration, at university. So lots of opportunities that we are missing because we don't have yet, but it's coming. So give time to time, and these are important steps. So far from me to say that we are late. No, we're just moving at certain kind of pace. But you don't regulate from one day to the next. Anyone who says, oh, why don't we regulate now? So, no, GDPR took about 7 years. Don't quote me on this, double check on Google, but no, I go by memory. That's the amount of time it takes to do something decent, something serious that makes a big difference. AI is the same. So, of course, in order to tackle the problems, the opportunities, the missed opportunities, we have had plenty of principles. At some point, someone started counting them. I've lost count. After 150 sets of principles, you say, okay, many, 1, 2, 3, 105, tons. Tons means that anyone and his uncle can choose their own recipe, which is a disaster. Ethics shopping is a typical problem. You have companies, and I have one in particular, who asked me, oh, can we put together this principle? I said, no, this is a good list, and just go for the OECD. So at least you are in a big group. No, we want to have our own. Well, why? Well, because, well, then don't ask. And they did cook their own, and now they have their own line, and they are as good as any others, but they have that peculiarity that basically reverse engineer what they're already doing so that what they're already doing fits the principles. That's how you do it. So that's not very useful. Now we have even more initiatives. The last one I participated in is the AI in Rome call on ethics. Vatican, UNESCO, Microsoft, IBM, universities around, is the same thing. Trust me, is the same recipe. Is always pizza anyway. Call it whatever you want. No, with ananas, no ananas, with ham, no ham, with cheese, but it's a pizza. So, and it's been a pizza since AI UK. We proved that those are the 5 ingredients with some colleagues of mine. That is actually with Josh. This, by the way, are my 3 JJJ, Josh, Jacob, and Jess. And no, most of what I do is thanks to them. Once you have the good principle, and I start slowing down now because we're getting closer to something a little bit new, you need to have good practices. You do that through a good methodology. Of course, you need to define good, but we'll leave that on a side for a moment. More on this. Make that a package, and you need to translate all that into something that happens within your public administration, or within your company, or within your university, within your institution, within your startup. So the translation, at some point, requires validation. And the game starts getting a little bit more complicated. Oh, I thought it was just, no, do it and check. No, the principle, translate them to good practices through a decent methodology, get that implemented, and then start sort of validating that actually what you are doing is what you are expected to do. Now, you probably got the game here. Make that a package. You need to certify all that. And so you have the good practices, the good principles, the good methodology, the translation, the validation, and something that certifies the whole thing is going somewhere, is going in the right direction. Guess what? Of course, you can pack all that, and finally you get auditing. So auditing covers the certification or the validation or the translation of good principles and good practices through a good methodology. If I had started like that, it would have sounded too philosophical, but I hope that the picture is clear. Now, it's complicated. We heard, and I completely agree, this morning that, for example, when it comes to auditing, a lot of people start thinking in terms of auditing something. You audit a process or a product. And most of the times, we have auditing for software. We have had auditing for software for a long time. Soft 1, Soft 2, ISO approach, etc. Now, when you go to the bank and they use some kind of software, that gets audited. But it's been auditing since we started using software a long, long time ago. The difficulty, which I share with you, I know you know, so you know that I know that you know, is that this stuff changes under your eyes. It learns. and it changes approach. So when I provide machine learning as a service to you, company, and whatever you do with that within that company, on the training, with the database, for what purpose, it's a real moving target. So challenging, not impossible. I mean, we put robots on Mars, so surely we can crack this, but not your straightforward approach. And the AI Act, actually, much as I like it, has inherited a lot from the past. That's what we heard this morning, and I completely share. Recently in Brussels, there was a question, and I was a bit too sincere. That went a little bit too far on Twitter. But someone asked, what do you think is the main problem with the AI Act? They said, well, they are regulating AI as if it were a microwave. Boom, that sentence everywhere. But it is true. The safety of a microwave is highly regulated. If you are in Alaska or Australia, whenever you open the door, that microwave will stop working. You cannot, well, there are some kids, but it's very hard to burn your hand in a microwave. Really hard. Now, that is the kind of risk-based, product-oriented approach that you have to AI. And it's not good enough. It's not bad, but we need to think a little bit more strategically. So what you need, and as for those of you who don't want to test your eyes, ethics-based auditing is a governance mechanism, remember before, that can be used by organizations that design and deploy AI systems, say your company, to control and influence the behavior of AI systems, normally machine learning. But operationally, is based and characterized by a structured process by which an entity's behavior is assessed for consistency with relevant principles or norms. Behavior, not the thing, the behavior. And consistency with. It doesn't mean that if it passes a test, that's a good thing. I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a moment, but keep that in mind. Remember, good, all those good there. Good in what sense? Consistency with a set of principles or rules or legislation doesn't mean that therefore it's a good thing. It means that it's consistent with. And if the rules are designed by the devil, it will be consistent with the rules designed by the devil. So you better get the good rules. It does a lot of things, but for the sake of time, I'm going to leave this PowerPoint with Tech UK for anyone who doesn't want to strain their eyes. But it can do a lot of good things. I'll go through this quickly. It can improve the governance and management of the decision-making support, basically your machine learning. It can unlock economic growth, improve user satisfaction, more public trust. If you have a good auditing system in place, people say, okay, well, they pass some tests. They have a green stamp or something. It can ensure ethical alignment of AI with the legislation that you have, including specific sector. By the way, the AI Act, for example, leaves a lot of room for medical appliances, which are governed by different kind of legislation. So you can also move in between different bits of legislation. It can relieve human suffering by anticipating and mitigating negative consequences. That's why most of the times you do it. Remember the microwave? That's why you want to have that stamp behind says it passes whatever test it was supposed to pass. It balances conflict of interest by enabling independent review and preserving IP rights. More on this in a moment, because of course there are companies that will make money out of that. And rightly so. I mean, they will do the auditing for you. In their turn, they will have to be assessed. And can allocate responsibility and accountability by using existing governance structures. So if something goes wrong, you had done the auditing, you also know who was responsible for what at what stage. There's another debate for not for today, which speaks about the black box, unexplainable. We have just created a monster out of thin air. That's rubbish, okay? That's what's going to happen. Responsibility will be allocated. Someone will have to take it, or at least will have to volunteer to take it, even if it's unclear whether it is or it isn't your responsibility. It happens all the time in companies. It will happen in this case too. There are plenty of limits. I just stress one, which is the one I want to discuss a little bit further down the road. We're almost there. It's not a good thing in itself. Once you started thinking, oh, auditing, finally, it isn't. It's a mechanism. Remember, it tells you that this is aligned with this. But if this is in the wrong place, this will be in the wrong place. It will just be aligned with it. If the legislation is wrong or mistaken or partial or contains lacks and holes, you name it, this thing would just align whatever you're doing in your company, in your PA, etc., with that. there are more limits. This is not a test for your eyes, so it's more of things that are constraints. But I also want to show you something, because I said there's a limited amount of time, and the PowerPoint is with Tech UK. Once you have all that auditing, at this stage, what you can do as of today, literally, and we have done this with several companies, you can talk about ethical alignment. You cannot talk about legal compliance because there's nothing to comply with. But if you are a smart company, and some of the biggest companies we have been working with are sufficiently smart, you start doing the ethical sort of alignment, thinking, if I align my company with the regulation that is in the making, surely I can't get that too wrong. I'm going to be roughly in the right space once the legislation is in place. So translating ethical alignment at the bottom into legal compliance will be just a matter of updating what you've done already to the final version of the law that has been finally approved. There are plenty of tools, again, not for your eyes. This is just look at the colors, okay? There are gazillions of tools to do that, both in terms of frames and in terms of software tools. We publish a paper, it's a different paper, again, with Josh, Jacob, and Jess, and Rosaria, where we, bless them, analyze all of them. Yeah, that's why you need to be quite a group. And it's now getting outdated. It's 2022, but you can find it online freely on SSRN. So it's not a matter of we don't know how to do it. Although, by the bucket, it's out there. You just have to pick it up and use it. As tools, you need a conceptual framework. We provided a conceptual framework recently. This is a paper that we put on SSRN. SSRN is the Social Science Research Network, used to be called that way. It's freely available, all open access. And we put that in the 25th of March 2022, has been downloaded about 5,000 times by different companies and so on, and is what you expect. A methodology to use all those tools to do ethical alignment, semi-auditing, looking for legal compliance of all those big pictures and boxes that I told you before. It's about 90 pages, so unless you have to do it, I do not encourage anyone to look at it. But you know, companies have to do it. You have that sense of it's coming, and I don't want to be hit without being told what is going to hit me and how I can protect myself from the hit that is coming. Well, if you want to have a shield, this is the place where to look. Is anyone doing it? Plenty of people. CAP AI is what we produce at Oxford. It's open access, it's free for all, it's typical university. No, we're paid to do that, so we're not that kind, but the public is paying already for it. So we're just putting there because, of course, no, this is what academics do. But the Digital Catapult, we did that, we started doing that. EY is doing it, PwC is doing it, Deloitte is doing it, and of course the NHS, the WHO, then public companies, there are pharmaceutical companies. Anyone is trying to get there. And you cannot imagine how many times, a week, I'm asked, oh, we want to do editing of AI. Would you like that? Yeah, well, you're not the only one. I mean, this is honey for the right kind of bees. So, because there's a lot of money. Just think about it. If you do auditing of this for a large corporate, which is not the producer of AI or machine learning, but is using that for their own purposes, one, they fear to be completely on the wrong side. Two, they have deep pockets. Three, they need auditing. Four, that you are offering what they need. It's the business that anyone wants to be in, small companies and big ones. We provided recently in a paper, again, published this year in AI and Society, some recommendations on how to do this. I just go through the quick list because we're almost there and my time is running out. Standardization, we will need that. Auditing will have to have standards. Doesn't take a genius, does it? Like, you can't simply have, audited here or there. And Europe will be probably at the forefront. I hope the UK knows that, and I hope we will be aligned. We heard this morning that we might be. I might be more skeptical. But skepticism or not, we need to be aligned on standards. It will provide guidance, working definitions, for example, of automated decision-making systems, machine learning stuff, facilitate, oversight, incentivize, and at the bottom, what I said this morning, political leadership. All this happens not in a vacuum. but in a context where at the very end of the horizon there are political choices, what society we want to live in. And that determines all the cascade that we have been talking about. Ultimately, and I'm almost there, 2 more minutes of patience, it will be a matter also of legitimacy. To put it more simply, you see the little box on the left? That's the stuff that needs to be audited. Then the list of people who might be doing it or will be doing it. Well, all that, who says who can do what? Legitimacy. Is it, for example, the European Commission or the European Union that says, okay, these companies are okay, they can do that. If they certify this, we take it at face value. Is it the OECD? Is it someone somewhere here, an agency? So there will be ultimately, call it an actor, that will legitimize and control the actors that will do the auditing of the actors that will be using the machine learning provided by other actors. It's not looking like a chess game, but no, that's the complexity with which we deal on a daily basis. So actors controlling actors, controlling actors, controlling actors. If anyone has in mind, oh, who controls the controllers, that is a false dilemma, because in a liberal democracy, the ultimate controllers are controlled by the very last people who are being controlled. That is the public. You elected those guys. So ultimately, who controls the controllers are the controlled in a long chain of ultimately, the people, we the people, American Constitution style. Finally, that's the last thing I want to say. If anyone had thought, oh, this is complicated, this is nothing. This is the one chapter in a much bigger book. And the bigger book is called Digital Sovereignty. Remember, it's a matter of controlling who does what, where, how, blah, 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 blah. But it's a matter of control. Control is power. It's one of the 3 forms of power. Power to create, power to influence behavior, and power to change the behavior of something, meaning controlling. So you don't create a stone, you don't make the stone into a bird, but you control where the bird flies. Create, transform, change behavior. This is about changing behavior. And it's power at its final essence. Whoever has the power to set up all that mechanism that I sketch here in 15 minutes will control how we're going to live in this society. So it's not a small topic, and I'm glad that we could have a chance to present it here at Tech UK. Thank you.